Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's happening, Bushmasters. It's BTG. Welcome to episode 10 of Semi-Indestructible, the finale of season 1. I thank you so much for hanging with me. We've had a lot of fun and looking forward to next season after a short break, get a few more surgeries and rebuild this broken beef carcass of mine. I had a great episode last week. A lot of Bushmasters are interested in film and television, and others aren't, but they enjoyed the stories, and that's all part of it. One thing I didn't mention, this is my first point of housekeeping, is, and I wish I brought this up, one of the skills that everyone should be working on, and this is particularly for the young Bushmasters, the baby Bushmasters. You're born in a generation that has access to a digital skill set that pungent fossils like myself do not. And you need to take advantage of that. Master your social media accounts, produce content, great photographs, great captions, learn how to edit videos, because in reality, getting that perfect show reel together is now often a waste of time, when in fact what you should have is an incredibly visually rich and mentally stimulating social media account. That is your show reel. That is your resume. So if you want to get into film and television, and particularly in natural history, they'll want to see what you've done. And not everyone can go out into the into the rainforest and spoon with a loris. Some of us are lucky, a lot of us aren't, but you can still produce great content about lorises in a way that's fresh and exciting and new. And they go, wow, this is someone who gets it. So mastering social media, understanding that it's a form of entertainment as well as a form of worthy communication and advocacy is an important skill. So take your social media account seriously. By all means, divide them. Have your personal account with your mates and your family, and then have something for work, because you get a great following. It's an instant ticket to the big leagues. You get 100,000 plus followers or 1 million followers, and you've got a book deal. You've got an opportunity to be on television or on the radio or in your local newspaper. So it is a very accessible avenue. I wish I brought that up last week. That is a skill set that's out there. It's learnable. You can master it and use it to your advantage. So this week, and I don't want to start too highbrow, but this week I was thinking a lot about farts. And I was just reflecting about how there are certain animals who make the most of everything. And the two that come to mind are herring, who communicate underwater with farts. In fact, there was a very funny incident, almost an international military crisis, when Finnish scientists picked up these noises, and they thought it was a Russian fleet of submarines communicating, coming close to an incursion on their border. And it turned out to be a giant school of herring just farting happy text messages back and forth at each other. So I'm impressed by how herring can communicate by farts. Then, of course, you have the carnivorous lacewing larvae, and they weaponize farts. They kill other insects, they stun them, sometimes paralyze them, sometimes kill them with their farts. And then they're able to eat them. So that's, to me, it's a good use of any kind of bodily expulsion, any kind of, as human beings, we produce a lot, we excrete a lot. Our exudate is manifold, but we don't use it very well. We're not very good with our waste. So I was thinking how disappointing human farts were, and how that we have not evolved to master our bodies fully. And that started me thinking about other qualities in other animals that are ridiculous, but also amazing. So when I think about, not just disappointing farts, but underperforming anything, there's one particular person that I always want to talk to. You know him, you love him. He's often mistaken for a condom full of pudding, or a blobfish who's impersonating Britney Spears. As I've said many times, he's not a complete idiot. He's just incredibly authentic. He's my dear friend and yours, Peter Fitzer, a.k.a. the Brofessor, a.k.a. Retep. Please join me.
Happy to be here. Really love that introduction. Yeah. I mean, listen, you're right. I am authentic, and I am interested in what you were saying about the social media. I'm going to have to watch one of your episodes other than this one.
Yeah. Now's the time. Now's the time. Always good when a co-owner of the station that you heard you show on says that. I didn't even mention. I did my proper intro. So, of course, Semi-Indestructible, proudly presented as part of the Wild Times, and sponsored by Adventure Beast, the wildlife conservation, comedy, animated series streaming on Netflix all around the world right now. And I should point out also in terms of housekeeping, due to popular demand, we do have Bushmaster t-shirts now, Semi-Indestructible t-shirts. You can see the link on the YouTube channel below. You can go to my Threadless account. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see a link there as well. Instagram is @Tasmanian_Grizzly. And I will say, after the finale, if you want to keep in touch with me and see what I'm doing and know when season 2 of Semi-Indestructible is coming, the best way to do that is to get in touch with me via Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, and of course, I'll respond to your questions there as well as your suggestions. Get a lot of suggestions for the Bushmasters, the content we should have on this show, and we try to do that. So obviously, you and I have seen a lot of strange things. You are one of the most committed enthusiasts of all that is strange. What are some of the things, Retep, that you have seen that you could not possibly believe, except that they're absolutely true?
Just in general?
Yeah, just in general. It doesn't have to be about wildlife specifically, anything at all. Because I know you have a taste for the arcane and the occult that most of us shun. What is it that some of the things that just delight you? Because you obviously have some sort of additional gland in the back of your brain that lights up when you come across creepy, weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I will say though, one thing I am that I do focus on a lot and look into and read a lot about are strange things that humans do. And there's this one that I was introduced to by my wife's group of friends a while back. We're hanging out in the backyard of one of our friends' house. We just had a nice meal. And we do that thing that you do when kids aren't around. We turn on YouTube and we start just watching whatever comes on. And then it just happened to be one of our friends' like recommendations through their account. And they'd been watching these things called mukbang videos.
What's mukbang?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm watching this, and it's literally just people who eat copious amounts of food, and that's all they do. They just eat it, and then they put a microphone by the noises of their mouth and the noises of the plate and the dining, and they just eat and eat and eat. And I'm talking for like 30 minutes. You'll just watch somebody eat like 50 tacos from Taco Bell in 30 minutes.
Is it revolting?
Yes, it is. And it's very, somehow it's like watching a car wreck. You know, you slow down, you have to watch it. And it's hugely popular. These people have millions and millions of followers of people that are like devout fans, by the way. There's live chat going on, which is like, they're like enthusiastic about it. Eat another taco. Yeah. The chewing sounds great. And I'm serious, dude.
Is the chewing sound, and what do they call it? ASMR, that autonomous sensory meridian response. Is it that kind of soothing, rain on the roof kind of thing of them eating, or is it just? Oh, it's a pig with a face in a bag of chips.
Swear to God, exactly that. That.
And what about and do they vomit at the end, or they crap their pants? What do they do?
No. It's not about anything other than this strange behavior of literally eating food as fast as they can and as big a quantity as they can.
Speedy. And are these people, I'm assuming they are horrifically distended and unhealthy. Are we talking Jabba the Hutt, or are we talking like chisel, like Joey Chestnut professional eater type physique?
Yes, perfect. Well, I mean, once this took off and people, the fat people realized that they could do this and make a living on YouTube out of it. There's people who are, morbidly obese, down to people who look like the hot dog eating guy and totally normal, chiseled. God. And it's just, it's like,
wow, the strain that must put on your digestive body. System. Yeah. I mean, your organs, anything, kidneys, liver. I mean, the just having to process that. I mean, that's extreme. It's one of those weird things. Every time July 4th comes around, because obviously as someone who was not born in America, but has a certain affinity for cultural gluttony, I've warmed to certain traditions that I've become familiar with since I became an American citizen. And one of them, I'm a dual Aussie American now, although a Tasmanian and a Tlingit forever. So one of the things that gets me is turkey, stuffing your face with turkey at Thanksgiving, which is my favorite day of the year. It's a secular holiday, not about gifts. everyone's welcome. We all celebrate. Not going to diminish the dark history of the abuse of Indigenous people, particularly in the Northeast. But
no, you could do that about anything if you try hard enough. So let's not do that.
And my friends and family in Alaska who are native Alaskans love Thanksgiving, so I'm going to go with them on this. But it's tremendous feasting, delicious foods, traditional foods I don't love all of them. The bean thing with the thing with the marshmallows, I don't understand any of that. But the turkey and the rest of it, it's absolutely incredible. And then you sort of laid out with, is it tryptophan, the drug that
tryptophan.
So good night, nurse, lie down, have a bit of a nap fart, get up, not 1, 2 games of football and the National Dog Show all on the same day. It just doesn't get any better with that. But the thing that I find revolting is eating contests in general. I can understand back in the day, and particularly the Germanic roots, in the Northeast, where you'd have these pie eating contests. And it wouldn't be the number of pies. It's about eating a pie quickly because it's a celebration of abundance and a little bit of self-deprecating humor. You get pie in your face. These big men out there pushing plows all day, they can burn the calories. Now, though, when you watch these eating contests, and it's not just hot dogs, it's baked beans, it's hot wings, it's oysters. It's truly revolting. And I say that, and I could watch a Komodo dragon ram the leg of a deer into its throat all day. I've watched bears, devour other bears. And
that's nature, though. This is not natural, what we're talking about here.
It just seems to be a harbinger of the end of the empire, the last days of Rome, when we just got a bunch of people who we say, we will pay you to fill your body cavity with meat byproducts. I can't do it.
No.
I want to gag. It gets me every time.
It's really just a fascinating thing. There's nothing more to it than that. And it's there's nothing else to get out of it other than entertainment. Whereas other things there are, there's an education, you get inspired, you get motivated to do things. Not with this. You're just I'm revolted and I cannot look away. And that is the opposite of human progress.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it is, you're right. It is a car wreck. It is a car wreck of saliva and flesh. And I understand why it's a spectacle. So there you go. I did mukbang. Is there a cultural origin for that? Doesn't sound like an English word. Where does that come from?
I think it's Asian, but I don't want to offend or do anything. I don't know for fact, but I do believe that it was of Asian descent when I was watching the first couple that I watched.
Incredible. Okay, so let's jump off that. Kyle here, as he said, it's popular in South Korea.
Got it.
Okay, there you go. I do love Korean barbecue. That's where I went immediately.
Dude, good point right there. Korean barbecue, $30, all you can eat. You're stuffing your face with as much as you can so that you get your money's worth.
And I say this as a dad, and you have a little one too, and it's so frustrating to have 2 beautiful, perfect children who don't understand the importance of an embarrassment of South Korean condiments around your little barbecue grill.
Yeah.
And having to cook their own food. So it's I've been craving. One of my good friends is the fantasy novelist Christopher Paolini. He wrote the Aragon books. A new book out, Murtagh, is out now. It's incredible. Anyway, he and his sister and I have a tradition that whenever he's in, and we're both in the same place at the same time, we catch up for Korean barbecue. And Christopher, if you're listening, it's time to get a kimchi on. It is time.
Well, now you'll know, too, if he's an actual friend and he's listening, because he'll reach out.
He will. Although he's in Frankfurt now at the book fair. So when he gets back from Germany, let's get a barbecue on.
Hey, guys, if you're enjoying... Guys, if you like The Wild Times, check us out on Patreon. We put out 4 extra podcasts per month.
That's one commute a week that you're just going to be laughing and learning the whole time in the car. Hey, let me do something else. This is the late night content. The stuff that we can't show on YouTube because they'll kick us off YouTube.
It's the Cinemax of podcasts. Uncensored, raw dog. It's the Cinemax of podcasts. Check it out. Link right here.
So let's talk about animals that eat animals in interesting ways.
Okay. All right.
One of the things that astonishes me, and I'll tell you what, let's just for the sake of it, I want to talk about fish. And and you can go anywhere you want on this, but one of the things that fascinates me is the African cichlid, and it's a type of fish. And there are many different types of cichlids in Africa than just being general. I'm not going to give you the scientific name, but it plays dead, and it changes its color. It gets this dullish olivey gray color, floats to the bottom of freshwater lake or river, looks like as dead as a dead leaf or a slab of turd. It just wafts down there, it changes color, twists its body like it's in
rigor mortis.
Yeah, rigor mortis, got the rectus, and fish come down to get a free meal, and then bang, turns around and kills them and eats them. And I just think that's you hear of animals playing possum,
right?
Different types of snakes do it. Obviously, possums do it. Many other animals do it. A lot of lizards do it, even big lizards. Even the varanids do it. You grab one around in the neck, I've done it, and you've got it under control. They'll go, all right. And they'll literally defecate. So they'll empty their bowels for the stench and also to make it seem like they're really dead and go all limp. And then they'll run away. But this is an animal that plays dead and turns around and eats you. And there's another one who does it, the Apomus grub, this beetle larvae. And it's quite a fleshy, fat grub. And it literally does reverse predation on frogs and toads, primarily frogs. And its attacks it doesn't get a lot of credit for this, but the Apomus larvae, its attacks are almost 100% successful. Now, if that's true, it's the most successful predator that's ever lived, and it eclipses the current record holder, which is a dragonfly, which is about almost 97%. And that's because of their incredible speed and visual acuity of this almost 360-degree multifaceted eyes. But the Apomus grub, Epomis, I think, if you want to pull it up, Carl, it's this fleshy thing, and it flops around like a dick on the beach, and the frog comes up to it and says, "I'm just going to gobble this up. I'm going to gobble this up."
Why not?
Yeah, and it gets there and it bites the grub, and the grub turns around and latches on. So what became?
It's like Alien, dude. The movie Alien.
Yeah, and it just sucks them dry. It's like a vampire.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah. So you think it's a layup. I mean, in the world of the frog, this is a beautiful, fat,
right.
all-you-can-eat Vegas-style buffet.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is literally a 10-pound hot dog, and it just turns around and boom, and now it literally will just suck you dry, take your life, and that's it. So I just think that's the kind of feeding that I just go, that is the stupidest strategy ever. Saying, please come, please come bite me. But it's amazing, and it works. And I just can't get over the fact that it has evolved to hone that particular skill set, which, particularly in the case of insects, in the case of the beetle, is hardwired in. Never has to learn it. Same with the amphibians, never has to be taught it. Mm-hmm. It literally hatches and knows exactly how to turn the order of nature on its head.
Listen, I mean, it's risky, as I said. I mean, but we have brains that allow us to conceptualize and think about the future, whereas this seems like just an instinctual, built-in, like you said, circuitry thing. Mm-hmm. And if it works, why change it? I mean, why would you change it? But I would say there's got to be some stories where, like, they get eaten and they're just fucked. I mean, you can't, like, did you hear about Bill, dude? He played dead. He got his ass eaten by it. But so there's another strange behavior, which is similar to this, but it is, I don't know if there's more than one animal that does this, but there's a dragonfly. I forget what kind, moorland hawker dragonfly, where the female hates sex so much that she will stop flying and crash to the ground, which can harm her, to avoid being mated with.
Right, because the male will clasp onto it and then try to, they don't have a penis or anything, but they place the reproductive material into the ovipositor aperture. So yeah, she'll literally crash the jet in order to avoid that. Well, you know what? I think that kind of selection makes sense, though. I mean, it's if you don't want to, in any kind of relationship that's leading to reproduction,
right?
there is a question of compatibility and fitness.
Okay.
And so obviously you and I punched above our weight without.
We're not compatible or
Yeah,
no fitness there.
we're just lucky. We're basically sympathy husbands. So we just they took pity on us and took us in. We're shelter dogs, and so we'll be grateful forever. But so you see these examples in nature where the males have to prove their fitness in order to be worthy of the female, because she's the one that has to stop her life to carry the infant and look after it. He's going to bugger off in most cases, not all. So it's a very big decision for the female. And when obviously I spent much of my life in Alaska watching the giant coastal brown bears of Kutsinawoo, and I have seen what we call beta bears. So we have the alpha bears, absolute dominant giants, and everyone loves their genetics and everybody wants to have their cubs. Then you have the contenders. Okay, these are big, younger bears, maybe not quite as big, but they're going there. They've been raised well by their mothers. They're intelligent, and they're obviously going to be, one day, they're going to be the title holder. They're going to be the alpha bear. So these are the males. And then you have the betas, and they're the next tier. They're us. And so they're not as big, and that's because of their genetics. They weren't raised as well. Their mother didn't teach them everything. They're not as smart. And they still have, during the breeding season, they have these natural urges to mate, and they've got to compete with the males, and then they've got to try to compete for the female's attention. And I have seen them sneak around after a female has already been with the alpha, and she's good. She's good. Thanks. I'm good for the next couple of years.
Right.
And then try to have their way. Now, even a small male bear is still bigger than a large female bear in most cases, depending on the age difference.
Sure.
And they will fight to the death a lot of the time.
The female will.
Yeah, and the male. And males will kill some of the females in order to try to subdue them. And I remember seeing this particular female in Kutsinawoo on the east side, and she had a leg broken in one of these encounters. And I didn't see her for 2 years, and I thought, she died. And I came back, and she'd healed amazingly. And she had a stiff leg, but she'd healed. So yeah, that kind of proof of fitness is really important. And we see this in Tasmania, where I come from, with Tasmanian devils. So the largest of the diacerats, largest of the carnivorous marsupials. And that breeding ritual is wild. Because
what goes on there?
Well, when the female comes into season, and it's a fairly narrow window of opportunity, she develops this sort of fatty lump on the back of her head, on the top of her neck. Yeah.
Sounds real sexy.
That's right. The ladies' night lump. And
lump.
And she gets out. That's what the song was about, actually. The Black Eyed Peas, The Lady Lumps, is actually about Tasmanian devils. And go listen to the lyrics. You'll see that I'm right.
I believe you.
And anyway, she develops this thing. Now, she has a number of things going for her, but she's, they're very squat, aggressive, powerful animals. They're built like bulldogs. And they have, of all mammals, I think they have, pound for pound, the strongest bite force, pound for pound. And,
wow.
And it's because of their incredible triangular jaws. I used to have I've got it somewhere here. I've got a devil skull, and it's almost a perfect triangle. And so what that means is huge muscles in the side of the jaw are pressing down to a very small point, which means that it amplifies the force of each bite. And that's why they're primarily carrion eaters, and they can crunch through roadkill and bones like breadsticks, like grissini, for those that enjoy Italian side dishes. Anyway, the point is that she's in season, the hormones are flooding her system, she's in the mood for love, but not just with anybody. And any male that comes up and he smells the hormones in the air, he's like, I got to get on this. And her response
from the hump hormones.
Well, yeah, and her response is to fight him to the death, and she'll kill him, and she will kill him.
Wow!
And unless he subdues her by getting a hold of that fatty love handle, you know how female sharks have that double thickness skin for when the males bite onto them. Yeah,
I do now.
So the male shark bites onto the female shark, usually onto a dorsal fin, which is why female sharks, even though they're bigger than the males, look all torn up. And then they'll get the claspers. It's not really a penis; it's a pseudo penis, and the sperm will come out of the male shark, run down the claspers and into the cloacal opening of the female to inseminate her. In this case, he bites onto the fatty handle, controls, so like you pick up a kitten, gets her into a den, has as much sex as they can have, and then while he's passed out smoking a cigarette, she runs away and goes to another den and does it all over again. and she'll do it again and again and again. And so they prove their fitness by being able to control her and to dominate her. So they're worthy of it. But it doesn't end there. What happens then is that she can hold their sperm in stasis. It doesn't fertilize her. She holds them in stasis, and a number
Puts
of
up like a
marsupials can do it.
blocker.
Yeah,
Like
it's just frozen in time. And then she'll have sex with numerous other strong males. And then at the time of her choosing, she opens the gate and to one of her, classic 3 marsupial vaginas, and they rush up there. And now it's a competition head to head. And now it's fitness of the individual sperm. So and remember, she only has, I think, 4 teats. So she'll have a lot of little babies, little pinkies.
Yeah.
They'll come out, then they climb up this sort of waterfall of it's kind of like just gelatinous goo coming out of her vagina, her vulva.
Nice.
And they'll climb up into the pouch, latch onto these 4 nipples. It is entirely feasible that each of those babies has a different father.
Dude, first of all, it sounds like a movie. Like, no joke. Like, you put dramatic music behind that, or like on Planet Earth. There's an interesting one where there's I forget, it's like snakes chasing an animal. That's what I'm picturing.
The BBC, that was so in the Galapagos. That was so good,
so riveting, and I feel like this would do that. I do want to just go back to about the hump a little more, because I did look up the lyrics, and it's really funny because they are exactly what's going through the head of the male as he goes in for the attack. What you gonna do with all that junk inside your trunk? I'm gonna get you drunk, get you love drunk off my hump, 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 my lovely little lumps.
Yeah.
Now,
Tasmanian devil. That's exactly it.
I'll never not think about the Tasmanian devil when I hear the chorus of this song again.
Thank you, Black Eyed Peas. Anyway, it just makes me laugh. Anyway, it's just extraordinary how we're always trying to prove ourselves. And there are certain types of toxic masculinity that take offense to being required to demonstrate our worthiness. But that's life. Life is a giant audition, and you got to put on your best self whenever you can, and hopefully there is consistency between the face you put on in public and who you are in private. And when there isn't, that's when you're officially a psycho.
So here's let me I know about another an animal, an insect who. So this happens, right? And in this instance, it's all about just pure aggression and physically getting there and getting to mate with the mate there, and her fighting against you to the death.
Sure.
Well, the nursery spider, the female eats the male, right? And after they mate, but the male is wise to this trick, so it plays dead and gets dragged around by the female, who's eventually going to eat him, and tries to mate again. Really? After playing dead for a while, and sometimes successfully will get another mate in before being eaten. So on the other side, us males aren't completely stupid. We can adapt to this too.
No,
and not just in a physical manner.
No. Well, what's interesting about that and spiders in general is, again, most animals remember how we describe gender in nature. It's not like some sort of artificial social construct that we have that everyone argues about. It's very simple. Males produce sperm, females produce eggs. That's how we divide it. That's their gametes, as we call them, and that's it. We don't care what it comes out of. Some cases, females have penises, males have vagina. Most cases, they have neither. We don't care. From a scientific point of view, it's the gametes: eggs, female, sperm, male.
Sure.
So male spiders don't have penises or vaginas. They have and so the male secretes its sperm onto its pedipalps, the little tiny sidearms beside the mouth there.
Interesting.
And then he's going to slap that on like he's trying to, in one way you like to think it was a very delicate operation. And in the other case, you might think, no, he's just trying to put some putty into a hole in a wall. But he's trying to get it in there. And then some of them will then break off the tip of this pedipalp, which is kind of like an artificial hand. He'll break it off in the aperture, in the hole, so that it keeps the sperm in there to ensure that the female carries his babies and prevents another male from getting in there. So it's quite bizarre. Remember we talked about bees and how bees, male bees, the drones, and their penis explodes into the female's vagina. They do have a penis, and it blocks it. So same principle, but sacrificial. Now they can live without a pedipalp. and
Well,
many of them will snap it off and try to run away
Yeah.
because they're going to get eaten.
Right, exactly. They know what's up. Speaking of bees, there's another weird behavior that human beings partake in. Have you ever heard of bee bearding?
Yes.
So this is what makes me think that humans are beyond reproach, because, like, much like
This is it, Fit. This is it, mate. This one thing.
you're wearing all bees. Like, leave the bees alone. Why do you have to? Do the bees enjoy this? I mean, what's going through the bees' heads? There's this one comedian, Louis C.K., who has this this bit where he talks about ducks. Like, he's in a foreign country and he's like, they got every fucking piece of the duck available in there. They got duck beaks, duck vaginas. You can eat the duck vagina. He's like, this is the ultimate domination of a species, but just for no reason.
I would have thought that's
the bee bearding.
That's well, I mean, yeah, but I would have thought the duck thing is actually good use of resources.
No, I get that. That is this is not. This is the thing where it's just an ultimate domination of a species. You're wearing them for no reason, just like
it is weird. Do you remember? I forget who it was. Actress. I want to say Angelina Jolie, and something to do with, I don't know, saving bees. Some famous actress. And so they put her on some sort of ad for this cause about health, and she's like wearing bees, and it was like 6 bees, and it's like, come on, but
6 bees.
That's not enough bees.
Not enough bees.
But it's, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Bee health is a very important. They're vitally important pollinators, and
I love bees, man. Legit.
They're great. We have carpenter bees here, which are very beautiful, and they look like they're going to do something, but they never do. And then there's
big black ones that look like bumblebees. Yeah, we got those too, and I love them.
Pretty. And we have some other bumblebees here, which, the thing about bumblebees is that some of them sting and some of them don't. And just looking at them, I'm never sure which one's which, so I tend not to mess with them. And then we have honeybees. I don't know who has a hive, but thankfully there are some hives around here.
Yeah, same here.
It's nice because people have realized the majority of bees don't produce commercial grades of honey, and that's not their calling anyway. That's a beautiful side product. It's really about pollinating not just food crops, but plants in
everything
general. Yeah. I tell you something I love about insects, actually arachnids, so arthropods in general. As you would know, in ancient Greece, the largest of all the sea monsters was the great Scolopendra. And Scolopendra was this giant segmented sea monster that was so big that it could sink a trireme, so the largest warship of that time. So it meant that there wasn't a single ship they could put to sea that this giant sea monster couldn't destroy. And it was so terrifying to look upon that when one died and was washed on the beach, the people were too afraid to even look at it, even dead. They couldn't bear to look at it. Now, what I love about that, as most of you would know, and by most of you, I mean everyone except Retep, is that Scolopendra, of course, is centipede family, the giant centipedes.
Yeah, centipede. I knew that.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things that I think is stupid amazing about centipedes, and of course all the Scolopendra are venomous. I've been stung. It's very painful. I give it 1 star. Don't recommend it. Is that people keep thinking that when something stings you or whatever, particularly at the front end of the business, it's fangs. No, it's not. In the case of the centipede, it has evolved these things we call forcipules, and they are modified legs. Modified legs. So it's turned a front set of legs into these hypodermic needles of pain and misery. And so they're so much stronger than your average set of fangs. Even a big set of fangs, not a big tarantula or, God help us, a funnel web spider.
They have leg strength.
Yeah, and they are really strong. And as I said, the one that stung me, I was wearing gloves, and it went straight through my glove and injected it in my hand. And it was a very painful sting. But I think it's so ridiculous, but awesome that would be the solution. No. Everyone else is doing fangs. I'm doing legs. And I just think that's one of the craziest things that I've seen in the insect world. I mean, there's others. There's a case of, these various water bugs that have these dagger-like penises. And not only do
Nice.
they rub them across their belly and produce the largest sound pound for pound of any animal, rubbing their dick across across the crenellations on their belly. That's how they let the lady know they're in the mood for love.
Which insects are these?
It's a type of water beetle.
Where do these guys live? I gotta go see these. Can I see them?
They're everywhere. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely. We certainly have them in the southern hemisphere. I have to pull up a species, but it's a type of water bug, and they have this, like your classic sort of brown jug band, and someone's got a washboard, and it's that. So it's a washboard, but using their own phallus to make this sort of very loud chirping noise, over 100 decibels loud if you're close enough.
Holy crap.
It's
That's
unbelievable.
crazy.
It's really loud. And then they have this dagger-type penis where these beetles, they don't actually have to inseminate the female the way the bodies are designed. The female has the appropriate receptive gear. They just jam it straight through the side of their body, just like a Jack the Ripper knife attack. And the female's anatomy is structured in such a way that it can heal from this penis stabbing, this wound, and the genetic material makes its way into her reproductive organs anyway.
It always finds a way, man. Life always finds a way.
So they say. Anyway, let's talk about birds.
Well, wait. I just to illustrate for everybody, 100 decibels, if you don't know, is the loudness of a subway train or a motorcycle. So like, for an insect to make that noise by rubbing their penis against their abdomen, that might be the craziest thing I've ever heard.
And the animal itself is about the size of my fingernail,
dude.
Which is about the size of Pat's head, and
and his body combined.
And it's just anyway. I just think that is stupid amazing, and I love that.
Very stupid amazing.
I want to talk about birds. Birds have a reputation. Obviously we see some sort of corollary with angels. They're just these beautiful creatures that fly through the air, and some of them crap on your car and all the rest of it, but they're beautiful, delicate creatures. They were for a time, from an evolutionary point of view, they were the smartest things on the planet because of their ability to fly at speed and locate things. Their brains were far more advanced briefly than the rest of us creatures crawling around on the ground. Now, of course, we think of them as, bird brain as an insult,
right.
Even though it probably shouldn't be. Anyway, number of birds that just blow me away. But my favorite probably, and there are a number. I mean, what's the name of that, the green woodpecker in, where is it?
The pileated?
No. It's a green, not a finch. It might be a finch. It's in the Galapagos, and it uses cutlery. Like it'll get a little spike and use it as a fork and get things out with it. Then they have a vampire finch.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a finch. It's a passerine bird, normally a seed eater, and it's pecking these larger seabirds like blue-footed boobies, and then drinking its blood. I think that's amazing. But my favorite, which is crazy, stupid, amazing, is the poison birds of Papua New Guinea, the pitahui.
What are these guys doing?
Well, they do the same thing as poison dart frogs. They eat these highly toxic beetles, and they are able to retain the toxin of the poison, amplify it by getting in their system until they themselves, like a monarch butterfly or a poison dart frog, they themselves are now poisonous.
That's a superpower.
It is. So here's this, not particularly large. It's quite a beautiful bird. There's a number of varieties. It's about the size of a canary. They get a beautiful orangey one with black head and black wing shoulders. There's a yellow one with a black head and a white throat. There are a number of different versions, but the point is that you put it in your mouth. You're a predator, and you think you got an easy meal. You are toast, just in the way you would be, say, for example, a rough-bellied newt. And I see those in Alaska from time to time, and they're just chilling there. And they're just sort of a, beautiful greeny color. You don't see their orange bellies when they're on the top. And then you pick it up and you go, oh, then it's too late. If you just grabbed that and ate it, you would die very, very quickly. So people don't realize there are birds out there that, because humans eat any part of any bird. You mentioned the duck story. I'm always astonished in Europe. It's very popular. And obviously I love European cuisine. But this popularity of killing these little tiny songbirds and cooking them, I don't understand the point of this. So, you do that to this, you are, if you're lucky, in a hospital ward.
Hey, Brosners, thank you for being loyal subscribers. We appreciate everything that you do. And now we have a membership offer for you.
I think you can get ad-free episodes, I heard.
That's pretty big.
Ad-free's big, but you can also get your comments looked at, so we don't have to sift through the millions.
How do you do that?
There.
Is there some sort of badge system?
There's a badge system, a loyalty badge. Boom. Shows up next to your name in the comments. Boom. We read the comment.
All this badge talks make I'm going to the badge store.
He's going to
You're
get
a
a badge.
badger.
He's gonna buy one. Didn't earn it. He's gonna buy one.
He did a fake leave.
I assumed Kyle would know to cut
Embarrassing.
on the motion.
All right, let's cut now. That's our ad.
Now, did this evolve? I mean, how does this work, right? So does this works out evolutionarily speaking because predators eventually learn to not eat the bird over time? Is that how this is beneficial?
That is definitely part of it. And as I mentioned, their colors are fairly striking, black and yellow, black and orange. So they're fairly distinctive. Although anyone who spent time in a rainforest knows that the colors look different, just like they do underwater.
Sure.
And we're often missing things that other animals are seeing. Certainly we don't see UV and so forth. So we're not seeing other potential patterns that could tell a story to a would-be predator. But yeah, by and large, that would be the long-term benefit, is that you would, people would know to stay the hell away from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, an extraordinary defense, because without that, this is not even a hot wing. This is
I know, right?
it's just toss it. You just
A
toss
canary.
You just toss it down. It's just a little drumette with a bright-eyed drumette, and you eat them up. Anyway, they astonish me. What about you in the bird world? What are there any birds that you think are stupid amazing?
Well, I mean, stupid amazing is a good word for this. This is very amazing for bird behavior. The bowerbird, they literally build fancy houses to attract their mates. The males build fancy houses. This is a behavior that human beings also do.
Yes.
So they will go around and find shiny objects, shiny things that are laying on the ground, and other things. Like if they found like a jewel on the ground, they'll pick it up. Like you lose your diamond and a bowerbird's around, it's going to take it and make it and put it on its house to win over the female bowerbird.
True.
And I mean, bird brain, come on. Birds
That's
are
very cool.
the smartest damn animals in the world.
I love bowerbirds. There are obviously a couple of species. The common one we have in Australia is the satin bowerbird. It's a beautiful glossy black bird. And they have a color preference. They like blue things. And so anything blue,
Interesting.
they'll take it. A blue peg, a blue pen, a blue marble. And so they'll make these. The bower is, of course, another word for a dwelling, a little home. They'll shape it. Some of them, they build these beautiful circular type things out of the grass. They'll push a little space in it. There's one thing that most people don't know about with bowerbirds that I find wonderful. The next level is that, yes, they make a beautiful looking ground nest. And yes, they surround it with treasure. And again, this is a demonstration of fitness. You can't eat any of those things. The berries that they get, the pen caps, the marbles, matchbox cars. It's just purely eye candy to show that you're strong enough and smart enough. Look at that. That's a beautiful looking bow. Go to the one that's just the blue stuff to the second from the top left there, Kyle. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So this is a great one because you can see all that blue stuff, that beautiful grass. They've flattened around it to make it a sculptural feature. The bower is the center part in the middle, the grass. Now here's something you can't see looking at that. That bird has chewed up a bunch of stuff and spat and pasted this saliva and glump all over it. And that gives it a fragrance, and that makes it appealing. So you know how when you're trying to show off a house, you're trying to sell your house?
Yeah.
They tell you to bake some fresh bread and put out flowers. So it goes the next level. So
man.
That's something that I love about satin bowerbirds. Just like the same way those little tiny oh God, what are those little toady fish that build those beautiful mosaics of sand and shells?
Oh God, I don't know, but now I need to look.
Yeah, no, they, you've seen those. I'm trying to think of the word for it. They're quite big up in the Himalayas. These monks make these beautiful mandalas out of sand. And this is that, but a little fish, the bottom of the sea, and they use the force of their fins in the water to shape this sand into beautiful patterns, and it's enormous. It can be several feet across, even though the fish is tiny. Are you seeing this?
I've not seen it. Is it the white spotted pufferfish?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, yeah. So I I pull. Yes, it is. It makes the pufferfish evidently makes these giant Mandelas in the sand.
Look at this thing. It's beautiful. And the scale of
Wow.
it is the fish is tiny. And this
is the
Mandela.
kind of shit in nature that literally makes me be like, man, there has to be some kind of order behind this because
It's beautiful, right?
it's just unbelievable that they don't know that they're doing this, but
No.
it's just wild, man.
Anyway, so what else before I get off birds? Are there any other bird stuff that you want to talk about?
You know, I'm not an animal guy, so I'm trying to think. What do penguins do that's cool? I just love penguins.
Well, there's lots of different types of penguins, but the funny one that I laugh about, which was in Adventure Beast, and we talked about his actual thing was the Adelie penguins. Various penguins trading stones for nests in exchange for sexual favors, and then and then there was the necrophilia of dead frozen penguins being inseminated by overkeen males who couldn't tell the difference between a frozen corpse and an eager female who was up for a good time. So that was a strange behavior, which was sadly hidden due to censorship in the Victorian age because people just didn't want to know about it. It's an aberrant behavior. I mean, it's harmless. The animal's dead, but they just, they're pre-programmed. Remember that most birds don't have external genitals. There's no penis involved. It's just an exchange of fluids. So it wasn't a tremendous violation in that sense, but it was a very strange behavior, almost like a training ground. A sex therapist, a dead sex therapist. But that's not even the weirdest thing in that era. I want to go to amphibians because this is probably the most stupid, amazing thing I've ever heard of.
What do you got?
Are you familiar with the term explosive breeding? Well, obviously you have because you got.
Well, I know what explosive diarrhea is. Is it similar?
Okay. It's not. It's thankfully no, it's not. But explosive breeding, and we see this with amphibians and specifically frogs and toads. What happens is. Let me back into this. Your common garter snake, right? And we get them all through here in North America, particularly up further north where it's a little bit colder. And they do a very strange thing. And they have these things, these mating balls, and you'll come across and there'll be a receptive female, and there will be, I'm not joking, dozens of male snakes wrestling around her, trying to line up their hemipenis. They have a double penis, and the penis has some little hooks on it, and they're trying to get that into the cloaca, the urogenitary opening of the female, and to inseminate her. And they're all wrestling to try to get this position, this giant ball of snakes.
A big snake orgy.
Right. And so you got one female exuding these hormones, and then you got dozens and dozens of males piled on. What's funny about that is some of the smaller males come out and they hatch, and it's cold and they're slow and they're potentially going to get picked off. What they do is produce an artificial female hormone. And that causes these other males that are already out and warmed up and active to rush over them and to try to mate with them. And they're wrestling and wrestling. And by doing that, it achieves two goals. First, it adds a protective layer, defensive barrier of other snakes between the cold little snake and the males that are already warmed up. And predators that might come and pick him off. So one, you're going to get the other snakes before you get to me. And two, it literally warms the temperature up. So now this cold-blooded snake who's like, I'm so frail. Now he's warmed up. He's like, okay, I'm good to go. Stops emitting the hormone and buggers off. So I think that, behavior.
When you say buggers off, do you mean he's not even trying to get with the female? He's literally just using
There's no female there. There's no female there. He's producing a fake scent, pretending to be female in order to get a mating ball, in order to get protective shield of snakes and to warm it all up. Now, that's reptiles. Let's go to amphibians. In the case of certain frogs and toads, explosive breeding is when the female is in estrus. She's good for it. She's ready to lay eggs. And of course, again, there's no penises involved here. The female excretes the eggs, lays the eggs, and the male milks them, puts his genetic material over them in order to fertilize.
I had no idea that so many species did not have penises.
The great majority, almost
that's
all.
Crazy.
Almost all of them. Almost all of us don't have one. It's just one of those weird things. But I don't know what it is.
Well, you said us. Now I'm a little concerned.
Almost, yeah, that's right. In the cathedral of ideas, I'm a snarky eunuch. Fine, let's go with that. But here's the thing. So these guys, the females in there, they'll just jump onto her en masse.
Mm-hmm.
Into the water. And very often it's kind of like, have you ever watched water polo at the Olympics and they have the camera above the water and that looks pretty decent, and then they go below the water and you're like, oh my God, It's just
Oh,
kicking
sure,
and
yeah.
stabbing and grabbing of stuff. It's the underneath of water in the Olympic water polo, but times 1,000. And the males grab onto the female. They're all desperate, and a lot of them have like special hooks or little pads to grip onto her to try to get into a position. So when she blasts out this gelatinous egg mass, their semen is the one that fertilizes it. First in, first serve situation.
Mm-hmm.
In the process, the female often drowns. That's explosive breeding. Now, there's a species of toad. We often just refer to it as long-nosed toad. Doesn't have a common name, something like that, proboscidae. The point is, it's a small little toad. It looks a bit like a sort of an orangey brown dead leaf, and has a long nose, nice little turned up triangular nose. They don't let the death of the female bother them. They will take the female and continue to rhythmically squeeze the sides of her limp corpse.
Wow.
And they'll keep doing that until they physically force the egg mass out of the dead mother. And then they will inseminate it, they'll milt over it, and they'll fertilize it. And it works. It is functional necrophilia. It is the craziest thing. That is, to me, one of the most stupid, amazing animal behaviors that I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I mean, anything to advance life, as they say. I mean, they don't always. Do they always die, or this just happens sometimes?
It happens often.
Often. Yeah, so they figured out a way to.
Yeah.
I mean, they evolved to fuck it up, and then they evolved to fix the fuck up.
Well, in a way, but by that logic, the fuck up continues. No, so it's not a solve. The solve is, hey, maybe let's not kill our mating partner, mother of our children.
Right.
The solve is, okay, we know we're going to kill her, but here's how we can make it. We can save the party. And I feel like this is a case of evolution, just showing how that there is no order to anything. It'll find its own path. And this particular path is, to be honest, very, very bleak.
It's a workaround. I mean,
it is a very ugly workaround. I don't want to get into politics, but you often see this overseas when two countries are either at war but still trading or still exchanging cultural things or scientific things. And it's like, you know what? It's just messy. It's just, and that's nature as well.
Well, it's interesting because, I think about human beings and all these strange animal behaviors that we're talking about. And it's like human beings go against nature, right? We create our own strange behavior. It's not evolution that makes us do strange things like eat Tide Pods and weird things like that. It has nothing to do with.
I don't know. I think it is. I think
it is.
It
like
is
a social thing, or
because we are social animals and we're looking for affirmation. We're looking to we're looking to bond. We're looking to stand out. Again, this goes back to proving fitness. People always think about proving fitness in the context of two things: sex and survival.
Yeah,
and that's not actually accurate. Because, you prove fitness in a very broad sense to show that you're potentially a worthy partner, and particularly in conventional human terms, a worthy husband and father for the case of a male, or worthy wife and mother in the case of the female. In nature, that's the same. But in nature also, and in humans, you prove fitness for survival. So let's just say you get into an argument at the pub. You're at the bar and you get into an argument. You want to look and sound tough.
Yep.
And you do that to prove fitness, and you don't want to do this. You don't want to go down this path because, you might beat me, but I'm going to hurt you really badly. Or maybe you won't beat me at all. Maybe I'm the Apomus larvae. You're going to come in thinking you're going to crush me, and I'm going to rip you apart. So that's a possibility. But there's also other types of proving fitness that are very important to social dynamics. So people eating Tide Pods and doing vodka eyeball shots, they're proving that they're dynamic and interesting enough to be part of a social network. They're looking for a form of validation that will ensure them some sort of social success. So I would argue that as inane as that kind of antics are, they have been enabled by certain aspects of modern life, lack of other types of avenues of challenges, exposure to certain types of media with its immediate gratification. There's still a direct extension of an evolutionary urge.
It's interesting too. You were just mentioning the guy at the bar who gets into a fight. to me and to most women, like that's not even attractive anymore, right? Like you want somebody who wits their way out of it, yet still it's like we're fighting nature because instinctually we're getting aggressive and we're gonna fight to prove our fitness, which really isn't seen as fitness in today's society.
But there's different. That's the thing is, who are you proving it to?
That's true.
It's not necessarily to someone you're in love with or attracted to. It could be to your social group. It's to yourself. You're trying to. I remember when, and it's also something you go through. I know a lot of the Bushmasters are younger, but when I was a young grunt, I'll be honest, going out when you're allowed to go out on leave, having a few beers, having a fight at the pub, that was a very normal thing to do.
Sure.
And now I just think that it's hard. I'll tell you the last fight that I remember. I mean, there's been a bit of pushing and shoving and trying to sort out drunks and things like that. But I was heading into town. I was in the paratroopers and we had a night off. And there was this band that we love. It was a tribute band called the Swinging 60s. Okay, not exactly Sepultura or Megadeth. Okay, it was just a fun party band, and it was in the city. Now the army base is a long way. And you don't want to drive, take like 2 hours. Take the train, you'll be there in less than an hour. So we'd always take the train. In fact, there was a train station at the army base.
Nice.
And so we clean up. We got our civilian clothes on. We get on this train, and looking forward to a great night. We had a few drinks in the officers' mess. Now we're heading in. And there's not just us. Lots of soldiers heading into town, just like we were to various destinations. And we're getting in the train, and there were a couple of guys, one big bloke and his little gobby friend and two girls, and they were under the influence of some form of drug. I don't know what it was, but they were... I don't know. This is sort of pre-meth. Probably, it could have been speed or PCP or something, but it was something. It wasn't weed. It wasn't booze.
Yeah.
It was something that made them twitchy and aggressive. And they were being very obnoxious. Now, I'm there with a British paratrooper and a guy from the special, an SAS guy. So three, we're all...
badasses.
It's a bad idea. Don't even do it. You just basically got, 3 human weapons. And... So we're just watching them being assholes and being horrible to everybody. And we just let it go. They're just going to be gobby. No one's been hurt. Then there was a guy who'd finished his shift working in the factory. He had half a case of beer. They came in and they pressured him to give them their beer. And
so they basically strong-armed him.
Right. And at that point, we're like, whoa, you're crossing the line now. In Australia, that's a federal offense. You don't be taking someone's post-work Friday night, half a carton of beer. That's 2 6-packs. You don't do that.
Yeah.
And anyway, but he made it, he was smart. He calmed it down. He said, yeah, help yourself, Anyway, we let it go. Then they crossed the line. Big bloke was going to expose himself to this older woman. And that's we said, okay, you need to sit down. Yeah. And so they did. And then it was all fine. We said, look, you're getting off in the next stop. That's just how it is. And they said, okay. And I said, remember, they're under the influence. So they're not their best selves. Even if their best selves were rubbish, they're not even close to that right now. They're very much chemically impaired. Mm-hmm. Anyway, at some point, one of them decided to have a shot at the title. And it was all over very, very quickly. One of us, Para from the Brits, kept the women sitting, just said, sit down and be quiet. My friend from the SAS grabbed the big bloke and just rode him. It was a 2-story train, rode him down the stairs into the main vestibule by the doors and got to work. Uh-huh. I happened to catch the smaller guy. He was only like about 5'7", 5'8", gobby little blonde guy, fairly clean on the chin, knocked him out, fell down the stairs. Unfortunately, cut his teeth into my knuckle, which split my knuckle open, but that's fine. So he's unconscious.
Not too bad.
I get downstairs, and this big guy, who's bigger than both of us, and he's a big Samoan bloke, and we go to work. And in a very short space of time, we'd beaten him to a standstill. But his pupils are as big as quarters. Yeah, I mean, he's just juiced up on
speed.
Yeah, and he is juiced up. And we stopped hitting him. We just said, stop, just stand still, because we didn't want to put him in hospital.
Right.
But we just said, you stay there and we're going to stop fighting, because this is, you're going to get hurt. You can't hurt us, but we can hurt you, and we don't want to go there, but it stops now. Mm-hmm. Anyway, thankfully someone called the police, and the next station came, the police were waiting, and it looked pretty bad for us. Yeah. Because one bloke's on the ground, then he gets up, he's playing half possum and starts, saying this and saying that. The police had been there before, and they knew, but it looked pretty bad because these guys were battered.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of meat lollipops in shirts. At that point,
Sounds tasty.
we don't have a mark on us, except I got blood from my knuckles to my elbows. So you can see who's been going to work here.
Yeah.
And it was a really ugly moment. But the officer, senior officer who was the SAS guy, introduced himself, introduced us. And they said, no worries, lads, on your way. And they took the other guys into custody and the two women, and off they went. And that was a pretty ugly moment where we tried to step in and it got messy because of we were assuming they're amphetamines. And then it gets worse. And then the police start shouting. And in the downstairs carriage, a woman had overdosed on heroin, and those days the seats of the train can fold in away, and she was sitting in between the backs of two seats in a puddle of her own urine, unconscious.
Yikes.
So it was a big night. We had to go back, obviously, took a taxi back to the base, got changed, cleaned up, and then went back into town, had a great night at the Swinging 60s. But the point was that was the last time I was goaded into any kind of real fight. And that was... God, that's 20-something years ago. And these days with the wife and kids, I would just remove them from the scene,
Oh, I can't, I mean, I don't even, I used to think about getting into fights. Like now it's just like, I think about that and I'm just like, I do not want to I barely want to leave my house. I mean, come on. I'm not getting into a fight with anybody.
There are people out there looking for trouble because they got a scratch and itch. There's something missing. And particularly in this country with access to weapons and so forth, it can become a fatal interaction. And that's what I asked myself. Is going to prison or being killed, is the situation warrant that? In nature, all the time.
Right,
all the time it warrants it. So a couple of things I just want to say that are stupid amazing. I know that you were talking before we came on air about waxwings and how they like to drink. Speaking of drinking stories, tell us about those.
Well, so the waxwing, it likes to get drunk, much like us, and it does. I mean, it literally, for pleasure and to get those endorphins flowing, it eats fermented berries and it gets drunk and it acts drunk and it hangs out and it probably gets in fights and
it's such a beautiful bird. It's such a beautiful bird.
I wouldn't even say this is a strange behavior, honestly. I would say that this is a warranted behavior that if other animals figured it out, every animal would be eating fermented berries.
Well, if you do it, I think it's always funnier though. Like we get that monkeys and other things will do it.
Right.
Very things. But
elephants.
I love it. Yeah. Although the elephant thing with the Marulin thing was a fiction that was a fake
movie. Really?
Yeah, Nat Geo. It's fake. The elephant was darted. The elephant was darted. And so it's been anesthetized. And it's one of the great scam moments in nature television, actually.
No shit.
Yeah.
Because everybody has that in the ether of their mind. You've seen it somewhere.
Was it Nat Geo? Actually, it's Disney. It's a Disney doc, isn't it? It's a Disney nature thing.
I think I literally just watched the clip on YouTube or something. And you just see. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fake.
Wow.
But there are other animals that do it. One of the one that delights me is probably the most beautiful butterfly in the world. Those gorgeous blue morphos from Venezuela. You've seen them. It's just gorgeous metallic blue butterfly.
Okay.
And they're quite a large butterfly. In real life, they're not that color, but they have these nanoscales in the feathers on their wing, these tiny little tile feathers, and they have these little nanotubes that reflect the light to be blue, even though in reality they're gray. So these guys delight me because they will get drunk on fermented fruit nectar, but they also like to drink rotten blood. And they get into, so they find an animal carcass and there's like this corpse with like a separating soil full of, basically, blood and other fluids that's coalesced in it, and they'll suck it up and they'll love it.
Do they get messed up from that, or is that just because it tastes good for them?
I don't know. I mean, I imagine it must contain protein, because that's the thing about blood, which explains the whole thing with vampiric animals, whether it's a vampire finch or a vampire bat, is that blood is just liquid meat. It's very much a similar protein mix as you get from eating meat, obviously diluted with water, but it makes perfect sense. Well, this is a nice segue to, let's get into venomous stuff, because venomous mammals are
Yeah.
one of my favorite things because there's not many of them. Now you got your solenodons, weird-looking rat things.
I've never heard of any venomous mammals, to be honest with you.
You're in for a treat. So you've got your solenodons and your Hispaniolas, these kind of giant rat things. Did you ever watch The Princess Bride?
Yeah.
And they have the rodents of unusual size?
Yes.
That is based on this.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, pull up, Kyle, can you pull up a solenodon? Solendon?
Solenodon. Sounds so
It's like a mega rat stretched out. It's like you asked a kid to do you a Play-Doh version of a mouse, and then this is what they give you. It's like cake Rex. It's just it's just this weird looking thing.
So weird.
Could you go to the one that's third from the right at the top there, Kyle?
Big old nose.
Look at these teeth.
Teeth. Wow.
So in this case, this
Yuck.
particular thing. So see how it looks like those rodents of unusual size from Princess Bride? That's what it's based on. So these guys in the Caribbean, they have a poison gland in their salivary gland, runs through a groove in their teeth, and they bite you and then they chew it in. And then that's a common strategy with most venomous mammals. Now you also have your classic vampire bats, and by definition, a vampire bat is venomous in that it does inject a chew-in venom into you. But the venom, and we've discussed this before in the show, is not just about killing people. Venom is usually a precursor to digestion. So whether it's a spider or a snake or whatever, it's also breaking down your body so it can consume you. And the side effect is incapacitation and death rather than the primary effect, which is I got to eat this. But anyway, in the case of many of these things, like for example, in the bats, rather in the vampire bats, the venom is just a substance called draculin, and draculin is an anticoagulant. So it just keeps you bleeding, so they can keep lapping up, drinking.
Yep, I know mosquitoes do that shit too, don't they?
I'm not sure, but I would not be surprised that there are other ways of insects doing it. Absolutely, and obviously we know there are plenty of insects that have the capacity to envenomate you one way or another. So I'm just saying it's venom, but it's not venom. It's just going to keep you bleeding for longer. But the strategy in most venomous mammals is the salivary gland with the venom there, going through the groove in the teeth and then chewing that venom into you in the way that a Gila monster lizard or a Mexican beetle lizard would do it.
Yeah.
But then you have a couple of outliers, and I love these. And one of my favorite, which I know you like, is the platypus, which is duck-billed platypus. And the male has a very substantial spur on its back foot, and it is a venom delivery system.
Oh,
and
wow.
It jams this thing in. Now, I have never been hit by one, but I have heard from people who I know are tough, and they said it was the most extraordinary pain they've ever felt.
Wow.
And this thing looks like a plush toy. I mean, it does not.
It looks like an otter. I mean, again, here we have an animal that's adapted something on the strong leg where it's like poker is. It's venom. Like what were we talking about that has the leg, the strong leg stinger that they evolved? We were talking about earlier. Anyways,
that's like a force appeal from the centipede, from the scolopendra.
So here we have a mammal that has evolved a stinger on its leg, and that's where I would want my stinger if I had one, because it's the strongest hitting part of the body. And
you look at it, and this is a plush toy. It's an otter. It's a plush toy. It's a neck cushion with a duck's bill. It has these extraordinary electro sensors in its bill, so it can swim with its eyes closed and find living prey, crayfish, worms, things like that. And then it's got this ridiculous spur on its back foot. And as I said, the venom is apparently absolutely shocking. But there's one more that people don't often talk about that I love, is when the animal has adapted, when it's not really venomous, but it has worked out a way to become venomous. Now, we see this in amphibians, particularly, for example, Spanish newts. Big, fleshy, fat, flabby newt has these poison glands on its side, okay? Now, if you eat it, pick it up, lick it, if you're so inclined, and Retep, you probably are.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get sick.
High.
But it goes one step further. It has spurs on its ribs. So if under pressure, you grab it, bite it, step on it, the ribs deliberately designed to poke through its own skin, push through the poison glands, and now it's injecting you with the poison. It's now envenomating you.
Tricky.
It's next level of stupid amazing.
Yeah.
The one that gets me in the mammal world is the pygmy slow loris. So it's one of the cutest of the primates. It does look like something you would win at a fair from throwing softballs at bottles, or throwing darts at balloons or whatever you do, throwing hoops over bottlenecks. It looks like a prize, a funfair prize. Pygmy stuff. Look at this thing. It's the cutest little thing in the world. So it has a brachial gland. It's got a little gland on its forearm that is quite toxic. So what does it do? It licks this brachial gland. It licks this poison gland on its arm, which is also a scent marker, lets the other males and females know who they are and where they are and what they're up for. And now it's all over its teeth. So it's like being chewing this poisonous version of skull tobacco forever. It has these disgusting chaw teeth. And then if you mess with it, it bites you and it's envenomating you.
Wow.
And it has a histamine reaction, causes an extreme reaction to many people, can be fatal if you're allergic to it. But I think that's stupid amazing that this, and they're found in in northern India and the southern Himalayas, these sort of mountain forests. Here is a plush toy of the Himalayan foothills that licks this tobacco-colored smear off its forearm and ends up having a venomous bite. I think it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's interesting. I of course, never knew this, and I would probably walk up to this thing and pet it, so I won't be doing that. But that the mammals all have these interesting different ways of getting the venom to the whatever. It's all defensive too, right? It sounds like.
Well, no, because particularly the case with shrews, and when I was doing Little Giants, we tested this on the Asian shrew, also known as the Korean shrew, and we caught those. I think it was Thailand, was it Laos? I can't remember now. But the point is, very interesting animals, and in that case, their venom. And by the way, when they get fired up, you're holding them and they're getting angry. Or hungry, and you're offering them we fed them lots of grasshoppers because they got to eat constantly, not unlike your mukbang videos, and because they burn so many calories. The issue with these tiny animals is they starve to death because they don't eat fast enough.
It's just like a human baby. It has to cluster feed every fucking 5 seconds.
All the time.
Yeah.
And in often the case of these shrews, they eat so much so quickly that they get ahead of their teeth, even though their teeth are replenished. And some of them have an iron oxide. You see these little rodents with black tipped teeth. It's not because they don't brush their teeth or because they're chain smokers. It's because they produce an iron oxide to coat the teeth to make them last longer. But even so, they're eating so much, they flatten their teeth and effectively have got no teeth. And then they starve to death because they're not getting enough food because they can't eat it properly. Right. And they starve to death before their teeth grow back. Anyway, in the case of these venomous shrews, and these guys live life on fast forward. They're just, the hummingbird of mammals, zooming around. And the amount of saliva that it produced from the difference between a normal non-agitated state to an agitated, defensive, or hungry state was ridiculous. It was like someone ruptured a fire hydrant and it's just gushing out because it's got all this saliva, all this venom is now in the mix. Wow. I mean, it was a really strong reaction. And their venom is not particularly bad for someone as big as a human being, unless you have a reaction to it. But it has a numbing effect. So it's there are some digestive enzymes in it, but yes, it's defensive, but it's also an offensive weapon because they get onto the legs of a bird or a lizard and it paralyzes, it slows those animals, and now they can really start to dominate them and pick off a prey item much bigger than themselves. So it is both a defensive weapon and an offensive weapon, and they use it with spectacular success.
Well, shit, I wish I was venomous.
So, here's the thing. If you could have any strange, stupid, amazing behavior, and I'll lead on this and give you time to think about it, but I think I'm in Google. If you could just give me a couple. I know there was something we were talking about before with a hairy frog in Central Africa. It breaks its own bones to produce a Wolverine type shiv out of its hands, but it's a horrible way to live. One of the ones that I would love to have is certainly when I'm swimming and diving, is I would like to have the ability for cloacal breathing. So
you can breathe out of your butt?
Exactly. And there's a number of now there are caudal breathers, and that's a secondary tube that insects have in their butt. But reptiles, some crocodilians, certainly a number of turtles, have this cloacal breathing, and they do a respiratory exchange of oxygen in their anus, which allows them to stay underwater for a much longer period of time. I don't mean minutes, I mean like a day or two.
Oh, wow.
So a big lung full of air, and then they sit very still. They're not using a lot of oxygen. They're waiting for opportunities to feed, or they're just staying away from those giant crocs in that area you get in North Queensland. But yeah, the ability to continue breathing underwater, and suddenly, drowning's not so real a problem. And I'd love
Exactly.
I'd love my kids to have that ability. So I feel, I don't necessarily want gills that are going to dry out, but if it's already packaged up neatly in the trunk, a respiratory device, I think cloacal respiration would be a great skill to have.
Okay. All right. Well, here's one for you. Many animals have this superpower. It's been recorded since the days of ancient Greece, in fact.
Okay, bring it.
I would like the power to predict earthquakes up to 1 week in advance. Anything from worms to dogs and numerous other species supposedly have this power. So
is that right? Pick up the pre-tremors?
Yeah, they pick them up to a week before an earthquake happens. They don't know why or how they do it.
God,
but it happens.
I mean, imagine the lives.
Oh my God.
We could say. I remember once when I was in Sydney, and I think was it Moulin Rouge? Ewan McGregor was there though, and my studio in those days was near Fox Studios in Sydney, which is a big sound stage. They did a lot of the Star Wars movies there, and I'm pretty sure it was Moulin Rouge. Anyway, because he was in both Moulin Rouge and the Star Wars prequels, and I remember him talking about it on television, which is why I know the time period. Anyway, there was this epic ice storm, and that hammered so much of Sydney at that time, and giant hail, bigger than golf balls, and then you got these composite pieces that were big, the softballs, one the size of a basketball, composite pieces of hail the size of a basketball that went through the closed sunroof of a car.
Jesus.
I mean, like an act of God,
Yeah.
Anyway, we were working in this big old converted warehouse, and we had a studio there. I was writing my books and all the rest of it, and it had the steel roof, and it was just shredded. By the time the storm was over, and I heard this noise coming, and it sounded like a train, which made an old-fashioned steam train. That was the sound of it, and it didn't make any sense because we're nowhere near any train, and also steam trains, haven't seen those in Australia for 100 years. But this roar, and then bang, that's hammering the roof, and it turned this giant steel roof into like a cheese grater, just punching holes in it.
Oh wow!
And we were getting pieces of ice coming through. We were safe, but it did incredible amount of damage. Look it up. This epic Sydney ice storm, which I guess was somewhere around the late 1990s. Early 2000s. Anyway, millions and hundreds of millions worth of damage to vehicles and property and all the rest of it. And I remember my friends, they just bought these brand new, I forget what it was, like Land Cruiser, the small one though, the little ones that the Land Rovers put out, whatever it was. They bought these little cars, they had this internet business, and they're just making a little bit of money, bought themselves, their best friends, bought themselves 2 new cars. They parked out the front, and they just getting hammered by these hailstones. And it was so dark, the storm. You know how the sky goes dark green?
Yeah.
It's hard to see. And the cars were only about 50 feet away. And they wanted to go and move the cars, although there was nowhere to move. We didn't have any covered parking. And in the darkness, you could see the cars bouncing and twitching like a dying animal. You know the scene in Apocalypse Now where they're killing the buffalo at the end, at the same time when Colonel Kurtz is being killed by Martin Sheen? And
but I can picture it. It's
that. And these cars and the alarms going off and they're bouncing. It's like it's been hit by these invisible hammers. It's like something, from a science fiction movie. Anyway, at that time, we had an enormous number of fruit bats, specifically gray-headed flying foxes. So at that time, we had an enormous colony of fruit bats living in this tree in the park across from where I live down by Sydney Harbour. And I mean hundreds, if not thousands, of fruit bats. And these are the grey-headed flying foxes, one of the mega bats, one of the largest bats in the world, has a wingspan about 4 or 5 feet.
Oh, damn.
And these things are just everywhere. And that time of year, if you see them every sunset, like this giant twisting leather ribbon of
That's
bats.
kind of cool.
Oh, it's super cool, looking for tropical fruit and things to eat. And anyway, so when I get home, when it's all safe, and now it's early evenings, just before sunset, about the time when the bats would take off, but not quite late enough, I immediately go back, and there's about 6 inches or more of hailstones still hasn't melted. This is summer in Sydney.
Yeah.
Across this park. So it looks like it's snowed. It's
Yeah,
ice,
yeah.
but it looks like it's snowed. So I crunch through this, and I go to the tree, and the tree is shredded,
Mhm.
absolutely destroyed. All the leaves of this big tropical banyan tree gone. And I only found 1 dead bat.
Wow.
I thought they were going to get destroyed. There was just 1 dead bat. So I get on the phone to Taronga Zoo, obviously being a part of and governed there for many, many years. I get on the phone and I said, "How are the animals? Is everybody okay?" And they said to me, every animal went into their back of house enclosures hours before the storm.
Dude, that's
They just
that's what it
know.
is.
They know. It's
Well,
like a special
I'm-
powers.
It's interesting. I'm reading this book right now. Let me go on a side diatribe because
it,
I
do it.
do want to plug my social media because I'm actually trying to turn it in. So on my social media, I've been posting. I've turned it into like this exploring the wilderness of wonders page where I'm putting up these 1-minute reels about like alien abductions, cosmic serpent, DMT, like cool animal stuff, the mushroom internet, stuff like that, right?
It's really weird. And I've been looking at it. I thought it was someone else. I'm like, this is genuinely fascinating. How is Retep doing this?
Yeah. So
they're great videos.
Thanks, man. Yeah. And it's so fun, man. I really love, like, I'm learning. I know these things. I've been on the Wild Times for 3.5 years. I never get a chance to expand on these like more curious things, mysteries, plausible mysteries and stuff that I'm into. So this really gives me a chance to like do that and then really engage with people who come back and comment and stuff. And so somebody had commented that I need to read this book called Abduction by, I think, Dr. John E. Mack or something. So I'm reading it. And essentially they're talking about how the people who get abducted by aliens, we all think they're crazy. I do think that some people have actually been abducted and whatnot, but there's this overarching theme between all of the stories and all of the people that they've researched who have been come forward being abducted by aliens and undergone hypnosis and all that. The aliens tell them basically that we are destroying the planet. Obviously, like we've lost our ability to be in touch with like the natural forces that are on the earth, and we're actually like going against it. And they're telling them, basically they tell all of the abductees that they need to try and focus on these things that are out there, these they call them like spirits or whatever that are out there that are feeding you information that you're not listening to because it's so clouded with human aggression and all these other things. But anyways, like this, in my opinion, with the animals knowing these things is not proof, but like evidence that leans towards the fact that that's kind of true. Because like,
you're saying the animals are the spirits that are advising us?
No, I'm saying that they're
listening to them.
They're hearing, they know this stuff up to a week in advance. Earthquakes, hailstorms, whether it's a scientific, as we know it, phenomenon where they're sensing some type of vibration or something known in physics versus like something that we don't even know about, that's to be debated. But the fact of the matter is that the information is out there and these animals are picking it up and using it to protect themselves. So I'm just saying, like, maybe there's something to the fact that this stuff is out there and there's a way for us to pick up on it and actually get the ability to predict the earthquakes.
I think that what you've highlighted for me is the narrow aperture of human perception.
Good way to put it.
Which is at the same time inversely proportional to human arrogance.
Yes.
And so you have the situation where you assume that your worldview is the worldview and everyone should see everything the way you see it. We've already talked about, some of these creatures. Now, for example, the blue morpho butterfly we mentioned before, it it signals things that can be picked up if you can see ultraviolet. A lot of birds can see ultraviolet. Some birds can see, they're animals that can sense and see magnetic fields.
Yeah.
And then not only are they picking up this information that is imperceptible to us and many other species, but other species have learned to watch those animals for those signals. So, for example, there's a classic case of mental blank, monkey with bright blue balls, vervet monkey. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Classic case of these scientists were studying these vervet monkeys. Now, there are many people, mostly that come on this show and are our friends, who would just stop at the fact of these bright blue balls and go, that's enough. That monkey's awesome. But in fact, researchers went further and found out that they had a limited but very real vocabulary, and they could identify different types of threats. So they had one called...
The balls can?
No, the balls are... we moved on beyond the balls.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was focused on the balls.
The balls are blue. They're great.
They're great.
Irony is that in the case of the vervet monkey, the bluer the balls, the more sexually successful they are, where, of course, inversely true when you're in high school.
Not true for humans.
But these monkeys had specific linguistic patterns for specific threats. So a different call for a snake attack, different call for an eagle attack, different call for a leopard attack. And they were able to take different defensive actions, because obviously you don't want to hide on the ground if it's a leopard. You don't want to, you don't want to go to the end of a branch if it's a snake. You don't want to be on top of a tree if it's an eagle. You want to be in different places. So it showed various levels of extraordinary intelligence in the ability to identify the threat and to communicate it to their own kind. But here's the thing. You don't have to speak vervet monkey fluently to understand the fundamentals of those calls.
Sure.
And so other animals picked up on it as well, but not even primates. Other animals completely different go, hey, that's a leopard warning. Let's get the hell out of here. And I think that there is something, and I don't want to get too fruity, but
that's my job.
It is your job. But I do think that when you stop looking at the information that's coming to you and stop looking to look at, not even trying to look, then you're missing out on a great deal. The fact that we can train dogs and cats to sense seizures in patients or heart attacks, they're already
COVID.
They're already doing it. We're just training them to tell us in a way that we can understand. It does tell me that there is many layers of knowledge and wonder that is currently beyond our perception, that if we knew and we could harness some of these, stupid, amazing abilities of nature, that we would all live a much richer, fuller, longer, healthier life. I guess that would be my takeaway from all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, dude, it's been super interesting. I've learned so much about these. I hope you've learned too about the mukbang, and I hope you're going to go out and check it out.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it once before I eat. I'm not going to watch it after I eat.
Make sure you wear headphones while you're eating and watch it.
I don't know if I want that. Anyway, Retep, you've always been a great supporter and a great friend, and you're always great fun to chat to. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Anytime.
Everyone check out Retep's. What's your handle on Instagram?
At Mr. Peter Fitzer, right down there.
There it is. At Mr. Peter Fitzer. Go check out his very strange and fascinating new media he's putting up there. It's very different. I'm really enjoying it. As I said, this is the season finale for season 1 of Semi-Indestructible, episode 10. So if you want to follow me and find out what I'm doing next, again, you find me on Instagram at Tasmanian_Grizzly. I can always interact with me there. I'll come back and answer questions here, of course, like I always do. We're going to put out a best of video soon. But thank you again, everybody, Bushmasters, for supporting Semi-Indestructible, proudly presented in partnership with the Wild Times and sponsored by Adventure Beast, the animated wildlife comedy series streaming worldwide on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, go to a dark corner, have a good look at yourself. As I like to say, life is short, death is forever. Get amongst it. See you out there.